Hello everybody, it's Pixie People here again. Welcome back to another What If, and yeah, that's it. Just continue the story, because that's what you're here for. So we start our story off with everyone getting their, um, you know, I guess invitations to, come to their agency, and Deku got one for a guy Ida's going to, so he's like, sure, I can go with Ida. He looks like he's having a hard time right now, so it'd be good if I'm there. And so Deku takes an internship with Manuel. You know, the water guy that basically saved the whole war arc, I gotta be honest. And Ida being a bit iffy about Deku going, but both of them go to Manuel's thing, and Manuel is shocked that even one person actually accepted his, considering how low down the chain he is, and how strong these two kids are comparable to him. Considering his quirk is just shooting water while one is wearing a full set of armor and one can just dodge him with just clapping. But he doesn't mind that. He just welcomes him in and then tells him his schedule and what they're going to do. And so Ida, uncharacteristically, as Deku notes, ignores what he's saying. True, Deku was also ignoring it, but it's shocking that Ida is. So after, Manuel sees that they're ignoring him, he just goes back to paperwork, while the other two just sit down and talk, because they also saw that he realized they were ignoring him. So Ida and him just sat down and talked, with Ida being sounding weird to Deku. Deku, Manuel, and Ida go on their first patrol, and it's really just Deku and Ida talking, with Manuel on how, mostly Deku, saying how it's pretty impressive that he's even a hero, considering how weak his quirk is, and it's pretty abnormal that he even, is a hero, basically. And Manuel thanks them and smiles, like, it feels good that these strong kids that have a great future ahead of them are complimenting the guy that's probably going to retire in, like, his 30s. So, but then Manuel says that there is no reason why Ida should be here, because except for this reason, where he says that the Stain villain has been said that he's here, and the only reason he would be here is because his brother got almost killed by him, and that's the only reason he's at this internship. And Manuel only knows why Deku's there is because he's there to support his friend in a hard time. And then they go back to the agency and just don't talk about it anymore. Then after, a couple more days of that, um, they're taking Deku's taking the train to, after picking up some supplies from the grocery store, where he sees a yellow-haired kid and that kind of looks like a guy from a book he used to read, and an old man with weird-looking boots. They have holes at the bottom of it for some reason, but Deku just assumes that that's another hero with another student from a different school. And the train gets attacked, and Deku actually gets grabbed out of the train and tossed straight out of the train. But luckily he had a can of soup with him, because, Manuel likes soup. He likes tomato soup. And so Deku chucked it at the train and swapped places with it so he wouldn't fall out of a train from a high area. and then Deku drop kicks it out of the freaking train with him on it and starts wailing on it. And then the guy with the blonde hair shows up in a hero outfit, shockingly, with a red cape glistening through the air. Hears him yell "full cowling" and punches the Nomu right to the skull and almost knocks Deku straight off the Nomu, but Deku grabs it and they go flying downwards. While the guy with the funny boots starts flying with them. And then when they land, Deku retrieves his outfit from his backpack and puts it on. And then Mirio and Gran Torino get shocked that this kid's a hero like they are. And then they reveal their names, Mirio and Gran Torino. And they work together to take out the Nomu. Quickly, that by the way, because there's 3 strong people fighting a pretty weak Nomu, so let's just say it gets pub stomped and eats the curb. And then Deku follows Gran Torino and Mirio over to where the attack first started. And then they see all these Nomus, and Deku wonders where Ida is because he sees Manuel right next to a civilian. So he then puts 2 and 2 together and just assumes he's after Stain. So he tells Lemillion and Gran Torino that he needs to find his friend, and they understand, so they let him go. And then Deku sprints all across the city. Then he finds Ida with a blade right about to strike his throat, with the Stain villain, about to stab him in the throat. But Deku saves Ida by swapping places with Stain and stopping the blade before it hits his throat. Because he only swapped with Stain, not his weapon. And then he breaks the weapon in 2 and throws it aside. Trying to move Ida, but he's stiff as a brick. So he just sets Ida up against a corner. Stain picks out both his 2 more blades from his back and sprints at Deku. Preaching on how that guy was a fake hero. Saying he tried to kill him. Well, All Might would not have done that. He would have just knocked him straight out and that was it. But that guy, that false hero, was gonna kill him. And so Deku is about to toss the ones. And so when Stain's blade is about to hit him, he actually lets it hit him this time, and then grabs his arm with the arm that isn't cut, then tugs it, which gives him a chance to shoulder him in the nose, backing him up and releasing the weapon, which gives him the time to stab the weapon into Stain's foot, and then he plants it with another punch to it, which plants Stain straight to the ground. And then Stain just shocks Deku by punching the blade to basically break it, then releases his foot, then kicks the blunt side to Deku's face, but Deku, in the nick of time, switches places with Stain's, Stain's broken piece of the blade. I forgot to mention that when he kicked the blade, a third part, there were 3 parts. There was the handle with the blade, with some blade attached, a middle bit, and the bit that was stuck in the ground. And so Deku switches with that thing, which is right next to Stain, which then gives him a chance to, sock him right in the face, which disorients Stain for a split second, which gives Deku the time to teleport with Stain again, and then basically tackle him to the ground and starts wailing on him. But Stain gets the chance to lick Deku's arm, which paralyzes him. And before Stain can stab Deku right through the chest, Todoroki shows up and shoots a fireplace at Stain's weapon, which melts it completely, fusing it straight to his arm. But before it can fully melt, he puts his arm against the shard that Deku teleported with and fuses it to his body, basically giving him like a shredder arm. And then tries to stab Deku again, but Todoroki was already too close and grabbed Deku and tossed him and tried to freeze Stain to the ground, but Stain was too nimble, so he dodged and cut Todoroki's ankle, which gave Ida enough time to get up and zoom towards Stain and break his and kick his arm away from the blood on his weapon away from him, which gave Deku enough time to explain his quirk, which helps Todoroki, ice himself where he's bleeding, and then just shoot a massive glacier towards, not a glacier, but like basically an ice block at Stain. And Stain gets caught by it, but he just breaks immediately out of it. And stabs Ida in the chest. It just pierces. And like he's basically stuck on the ground still, but Todoroki charges up a flash fist, shoots it at Stain, which connects, of course, because Stain is focusing on Ida, but he can't focus when Todoroki keeps doing that. So he decides to sprint towards Ida again, which Todoroki thinks he can hit Stain, but Stain jukes him, jumps to a wall, bounces straight off that wall, basically like a cat, and then leaps at Todoroki, cuts his ice arm, like basically the wrist of it. Basically, he slit his wrist. And then tried to stab Todoroki in the throat, but Todoroki had the chance to shoot him with a massive flame, which basically burned him and made his skin bubble, which he screams at, and then gets so mad he just bites Todoroki right in the throat. But before he could do any serious damage, like tear his jugular out, Todoroki, what the heck am I talking about? Deku swatches places with him. Then Stain with the blood on his lips, he licks it, and Todoroki's down. But then Ida steps in front of Deku, telling Deku to protect Todoroki. So Deku immediately pulls out a first aid kit and starts covering the wound. And then Todoroki acts quickly, picks up a piece of Stain's blade, basically sets it on fire, and then tells Deku to put it on the wrist. So Deku puts it on the wrist, which, Todoroki screams at because that fucking hurts. And then Todoroki stays down. He's paralyzed, but he can still use his quirk, basically. And then Deku covers all the wounds that Todoroki got. And then picks up Todoroki and tosses him at Stain so he can swap places with him. Basically using his friend as a item. And then he freaking charges up a punch and socks Stain right in the non-existent snows, knocking his mask off, finally. And then Stain, after basically cleaving the ground, he sprints towards Deku, which Deku tries to clap with him. But Stain, always the quickness, twirls and cuts Deku's, I guess, chest area. And then Stain does, like, basically like a todo move and grabs a piece of the blade that's on the ground, bleeding his hand because he gripped it so hard, and then cut his blade so quickly that it just knocked off all of, made Deku bleed a lot, and then Stain cuts Deku a lot in the upper area, removing all of his gear from his top region, but for Deku's safety glasses. And then Deku uses his safety glasses to, open his smoke vision, and then he throws a smoke grenade on the ground, smoking the whole area, blinding Stain, but not blinding Deku. So Deku can see where Stain is. So then he claps, which Stain takes him trying to get closer. So he attacks where he last thought Ida was. But what Deku actually did was clap with him. So then he grabbed Stain and did like a twirl move, and then tossed him up in the air out of the smoke. Then he jumped out of it, removing the smoke vision, grabbed Stain by the face, tossed him even higher, which made Stain lose grip of the blade he was holding, and then Deku kicks it, which kicks the blade towards Stain, through past Stain. Then Deku climbs above him, then grabs Stain by his waist, and then basically, from the tippy top rope, slams Stain right into the goddamn pavement, which hurts Deku a lot, but not as much as it hurt the burn-scarred, cut, and pudged and bruised Stain. So Stain's out, like, fully out. So then they tie him up and then drag him out of the alley. But then sucks for them, the flying Nomu that Deku thought he got rid of with Gran Torino and Lemillion shows back up again with a missing arm and grabs Ida and then pulls Ida into the air, but Deku, out of energy and extremely exhausted, can't do anything, and Todoroki's still paralyzed, like almost fully paralyzed. He can move slightly, but can't use his quirk because he's so tired. So Ida's just stuck in the air until Stain wakes up, jumps out the Nomu, and kills it. And then Stain gets off it, saying to Ida that he's proved himself, to Stain that he's a true hero. Mostly because he kept protecting his friends more than his, and instead of trying to kill Stain. And so and then Stain gets up, and then instead of either Todoroki and Deku doing anything, Stain just walks away. Like, he climbs a building, nods at them, and then leaves. So in this timeline, Stain gets away. If you're wondering, yeah, Deku and Todoroki definitely could have taken him. But, they just didn't want to because they felt they couldn't. But they could have. And then Stain gets away. And, then we see Stain run away from them, and we cut to him in, like, an abandoned building, looking at his arm, and then he just cleaves it straight off with a spare knife he had, and then he, cauterize it with a fire he started. And then we see him pick up several sheets of metal from like broken blades, and then he fuses it into a robotic arm. More like uh, more like just a sword arm. And then Stain puts on another mask, and then takes his shirt off fully because it's like basically ripped and burned. And then we can see him put on some cloth, and then Stain's new getup. Basically shirtless and has a blade arm. Then we cut away from Stain and we see Todoroki, him, and Ida walking instead of with the Stain villain. Instead of with Stain, they were with the Nomu, and then they drag its head with them. And then when they're questioned, they just said they were fighting the Nomu that attacked them. Luckily for both Todoroki, Ida, and Shoto, and Deku, why did I forget his name? They didn't face any consequences because they lied to the heroes' faces, so they didn't get in trouble. Yeah, that was really just a wrap up. Anyways, guess like, subscribe, hit the post notification bells if you liked the video. If you didn't, don't do any of those things. But okay, see you later.